Nice.
Welcome back to Ithaca BJJ. Today, we're taking a look at Chris, the guy there in the black. He's a state trooper who's been training with us for about 8 months, and his progress as a white belt has been pretty impressive. Let's get started. So first, let's start here. He's going for this head and arm choke, and actually here's a little tip. You guys, instead of having your palm turned up, turn it down. That tightens that choke pretty good. And he's rolling there with Wes, a blue belt who we've seen on this channel pretty often. One thing that Chris has gotten really good at is being heavy on top. Instead of just laying on top of his opponent like a wet blanket, he's learned how to apply pressure. And this is something he's been experimenting with quite a bit. Check out that Kimura sweep. We're going to see him hit stuff like that at least a couple of times during this video. And now they're back on their feet. One of the things that I like about Chris a lot is that he always starts on his feet. It gets common for white belts after training for a couple of months to just sit down. Not this guy. He's constantly on his feet. And look at that nice trip he did there. Now he gets taken down here by the dummy sweep, but check out this transition he makes. In fact, for a moment, I actually thought he was going for a heel hook. So Wes gets back up on his feet, and check out this little takedown. This is something we've been working on for the last few months. That was executed beautifully. Here's a nice knee cut. Nicely done. And notice how he wraps Wes up right away. And he does a really good job here, staying heavy as he transitions to that case of Katami. This is also something we've been working on a lot here at Ithaca BJJ. He has Wes's head wrapped up nice and tight, and it remains heavy. And he goes to transition here to a knee on belly, but Wes catches him as he tries to go to mount. Again, notice how he stays heavy on Wes. It keeps his head wrapped nice and tight. And here he transitions back to a Kesa, getting to side control. Now he transitions here to north-south, but he doesn't quite have the configuration of that choke. That's something he's going to have to work on a bit. Wes does a good job there blocking the mount. Now Chris would have did a better job if he had kind of did a better job sneaking in that knee on belly and then transitioning to a mount position. He's going to do a nice little feint here for a guard pass, where he fakes in one direction and goes in another. Right here. Fakes to the right and goes to the left. Nicely done. Now Wes gets that single. Chris does a really good job sprawling out here, so Wes transitions to a double. But watch how Chris counters. This is really impressive. Gets that Kimura grip. And look at that. Beautifully executed. This guy's been training for about 8 months. Less than that, because I think he took a couple of months off in between. He holds on to that Kimura grip while Wes comes up on top. And they're back on their feet. Wes does a great job here, circling around to the back. Chris tries to counter, ends up in turtle. Now he tries to do a roll here, but he does not execute it very well and puts himself instead in a bad position. Then Wes has his back. Now Wes gets a nice body lock and he starts to attack the neck. Chris is doing a decent job fighting the hands. A lot of white belts at this point, they try to fight the legs, they try to unlock that body lock, but Chris is staying focused on that neck area. So what Wes does, instead of getting nice and clean under the neck, he's actually across his jaw. And there's the tap. So here's me and Chris. Again, Chris loves to start on his feet. So you're going to see a lot of grip and hand fighting here. And Chris has gotten pretty good at that front trip. So I'm keeping him away from me and keeping him away from my legs because I know that's where he wants to go. Now the problem there is he goes for this throw, but his legs are out of position and his hips are too high, which allows me to just use his momentum against him and take him to the mat. Now he does a really good job here moving my head, but he really needs to get his arm across my face. That would allow him to get that arm inside and to start recovering guard. But I keep my head nice and low. Now here I'm just looking to isolate that arm. But Chris makes a critical mistake right here. He puts his arm between my legs while I'm in side control. And the moment he did it, he knew he messed up because he said so. He goes, "Whoops, that was a mistake." So folks, when you're rolling with someone and they give you something, just take it. So since he gave me the arm, I went ahead and locked it up with my legs and set in the arm lock. And there's the tap. So now we're back on our feet again. And again, he wants to get in close because he wants to get that trip. He's doing a good job preventing me from getting the grips that I want. His hand fighting and his grip fighting has come a long way. And I know this is boring to a lot of you guys. You probably say, just sit down, just pull guard. But guys, hand fighting and grip fighting is essential in jiu-jitsu, and it's one of those areas that is ignored way too often. There he is. He wants that trip, but I'm just too far away from him. So I got that takedown, but in fairness to Chris, that was pretty sloppy. I don't think I tried that on an upper belt. So the problem there is that his knee was too low. The knee really needed to be up more into my chest. Because his knee was so low, it was easy for me to push it down and start coming around for the guard pass. And here, I'm weaving my arm through his legs, putting pressure down on his knees with my shoulder. What he needs to do here is to push my head instead of pushing on my shoulder. If he pushes my head, that prevents me from coming around. And so now we end up in mount. He's doing his best to fight off the choke, but I'm in pretty tight here. I've already got the first hand in. Head to the mat. You can't see it, but the second hand goes in, and there's the tap. Now we're back on our feet. This time, we're kind of talking to each other, and I'm trying to get him to go for that leg. That's why I've got it out there. I want him to go for that single leg, so I can do my rolling guillotine that I love doing so much. But he's on to me. So this is a bit of a mistake. I get him right where I want him here, and there's the takedown. So at this point, I'm going knee on belly just to apply pressure and get him to move, to open himself up. Guys, a lot of times you can use that knee on belly just to get your opponent to move in a way that puts you in a more advantageous position. I'm just waiting to see which way he's going to move. And he gives me the perfect opportunity to go for this Kimura. And I don't rip it, I just get it in position and hold it and wait for him to tap. Now I was actually looking to pull guard here, and he shoots the double leg just as I'm ready to pull guard and catches me completely off my game. That was a nice takedown. Now at this point, we're still kind of talking to each other. And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I says, I see where you're going. And I promised him I was going to counter this position. I was going to counter and get him into half guard. But he hits this perfectly, and I just did not have the opportunity. He hit it so well, I was just so thrilled, and I just could not stop laughing. That was awesome. And we're still doing a little talking here, and I'm basically telling him, all right, I'm going to get my shoulders to the mat. Once I get my shoulders to the mat, you don't have the back. And as I get my shoulders to the mat, he does the right thing, and he starts to transition to come up into mount. And that's where you catch the leg and throw them back into half guard. So then he caught me completely off guard by doing a sort of knee on belly, but with the wrong knee. But he applied this extra pressure that we talk about a lot here in the gym, where you pull on the collar and the sleeve and drive your knee into your opponent. And as he's doing it, I says, keep driving, keep driving, keep driving. And if you look close, you can see the agony on my face, but I'm laughing at the same time. This was a great roll. And there you have it, folks. This cop is well on his way to being an excellent BJJ player. Thanks again for watching, and remember to like and subscribe.